is on.
It's not streaming, to be clear.
No, not streaming. Cool.
Sure. All right. Everyone's good. Dope. What do we do with our brains? In science, the connotations of the term plasticity are always positive. It's understood as a sort of natural sculpting that forms our identity, that makes us subject to a singular, non-recognizable, identifiable history. In 1969, Semifinals Delgado published a pioneering neuropsychological study called Physical Control of the Mind towards a psycho-civilized society, part of a series of research at Yale University and directly parallel to CIA obsession with rational manipulation of the mind. His famous argument was, we have managed to tame and civilize our surrounding nature. Now, it is time to civilize our inner being. Grove 15, Delgado claims to have developed sufficient knowledge of the brain to target aggression instincts out of the heart of violence. Delgado steps into a bull ring with a bull, armed only with a remote control. The bull has been fitted with an intracranial electrode. Delgado engaged the electrode. The bull stopped charging. On the base of this, Delgado proves that the perfection of such electrodes represents the possibility of ending the threat of nuclear war. At this very moment, as I write the 25 milligrams of Adderall shooting straight into my brain, activating complex series of interactions, new neurons in my prefrontal cortex, which release norepinephrine and dopamine, allow me to divert my attention from another brain stimulating device, my phone. Delgado's radical and important point was that the mind is a physical object, whether it be a phone or a drug that works directly on neurotransmitter activity. Things that influence us are always influencing the physical shape of our brains. But what is the endpoint of this politics and neurocontrol? In the usual order of things, lives run their course like rivers. Sometimes they jump their bed without geological cause to explain the fate or flood, the suddenly deviant core form of these lives, the explosive plasticity. The stakes of this destructive neuroplasticity are not initial trauma, brain injury, of Alzheimer's, of stroke, deletion. They are the boundaries between life and death, the terrain of identity, ontology itself. Malibu 12. Events appear hits, trying subjective continuing, loud never recall, how do you internalize by cerebral region, brain nutrients, consequence for identity, or treated as contingent, along with the possibility of identity change by destruction remains an accident. While should be seen as accidental, the ontology of the accident must be acknowledged as law. Identity is always liable to say farewell to itself, and between a life and death, conflict, binary station, resulting metamorphosis of accidents, destructive mutations, not the transformation of the body into a cadaver, or transformation into another body in the same body due to an accident between life and death. We become other to ourselves, acknowledges the role of destructive plastics allows us radicalize deconstruction, subjectivity, power of annihilation hides in the very constitution of identity. Must take destructive plasticity into account as a tool to understand kind of reinforce the balance. Now, the politics of nuclear control are premised on Delgado's rational affirmation of positive plasticity. The intervention of the destructive complicates this frame. What happens to our existential relation to the nuclear order when we think of the brain not through rational control but through destructive potential of chance and accident? The dualist affirmation of the power of mind crumbles. That's Grove 15. Where we land racing the point from which we have left, we have flash of transition, stroke victims, and those suffering from Alzheimer's, theory, neuroscience, the train of network political engagement, backlash, in the name of defending the dignity of the human reaction, humanist insists in the brain is matter that which gives and receives form. The problem of the brain is the threat to the very image of man. According to Kant, the sense of data sensation must be a purely passive stream which thought is in command, control, not of humanisty. Recourse to the brain is the death of man, affect important, and makes the reaction enfeeble humanisty. The relationship between elasticity and chance takes the form of the brain intrudes Alzheimer's, shift neurological chemicals, such the eye, while the eye under control, destructive plasticity process to confront that our life can go on without us. The eye always has the potential to explode by having plasticity when losing the bonds of positive possibility, alteration of the brain or social incorporation plasticity, the bonds to raise the spectrum of society's control. Individuals become individuals, humans as counters in modular economy plasticity because the real individual body serve not just identity, desire to have an identity, attempt to safeguard against human escaping itself to be itself being this. That's what trying to cure someone to Alzheimer's by scolding her, but the insurance rationality humans suffer from the horde structure plasticity rather than flee from flee into humanist sentimentality. Here in our linear nation, our line of thought, an accident occurs, a devastating event, the intrusion of radiation. Jarvis 22 interval people already ingested radiant memory lies, and then put one shed bombs into from finding their subradioactive accident from bombs from the very bones of human radiation. Leaching the representative inner resetting yourself with cosmic helpless trauma. There's no again for nuclear catastrophe is already happening, will not stop happening, or the very bones of teeth are its archive. Now, devastation of radiation as destructive plasticity stored in matter, brain, body, earth. Alzheimer's is the ultimate neurological devastation, that of the mental environment. Aging as a psychic undoing of identity before. What does it mean to come to terms with this destructive plasticity? The nuclear invention has brought us this kind of destructive plasticity as event. Aging of civilizations have accelerated by this possibility of explosion, the annihilation of equilibrium, and the destruction of capacity as the American empire ages. The condition of crisis has become so familiar to our politics, we forget what crisis really is. Are we ready for a crisis to finally catch up with us? Every empire comes and goes, but the questions must ask are what form is ours going to take? Are we gradually becoming old, or has the event of nuclear act as a legion that precipitates our collapse? Is an unspeakable subject for the aging American empire, whose range of motion extends only from whether America is already great or should be great again. Malibu 12. Aging is the loss of plasticity and conceivable part of apart from gradual becoming old. According to the scheme of becoming old to be plastic, know how to get formed into time, gradually to make remain young. Second conception defines aging as an event, some rupture. Even the most peaceful aging will always be an accidental catastrophic invention. Something happens when precipitates the subject into old age. A particular class plasticity characterizes explosion, explosive transformation, here after old age, and accidental breakdown. A continuity aging or uprise all of a sudden like a trauma, it transforms us into an unknown subject. Who no longer has a childhood when subjects suffering from dementia, mentioned moments in their past who can say whether they're doing something because the liberation of their liberation of the repressed, or seeing something entirely other. Two types of aging are always intertwined. How we may imagine this beyond limits of transformation, some words destructive last two its goals by annihilating. The lesson of the fall of Rome is memento mori. Remember that you will die, and from such remembering comes ars moriendi, the art of dying. Is there an art of dying for empires too? Will we go down, guns blazing and nukes bursting, burning the planet to a crisp, and locking ourselves in behind impenetrable walls, confronting with the memento mori? Our art of dying takes the form of new kind of memory, one not premised on flexibility, a faint commitment to flux, still attached to identity and control through the linear elaboration of a stable, rational subject, then instead creating a framework for linked to undecidability of psychoneuronuclear accent. Malibu, no wait. Plasticity is situated between the taking on form, the annihilation form, the individual occupied in the midpoint between taking on annihilation form, the threat explosion inhabits every form, the plasticity of the self presupposes that simultaneously receives and gives its own form and implies a necessary split in the insertion equilibrium between constant and the exposure. The action force also contradiction precise to resist and makes transformation possible only ontological explosion with the transition from one order to the other explosive charge searches are critical and we didn't show ourselves we cannot survive transition from homeostasis self-generation is not smooth creating resistant to our own ideologies. What our brain wants to problem because its self-cold capitalism offers the untouchable spectral simultaneity of daily detonations that are fixed to, for example, American hedge on replicated characters. This one should do our blame for lower self-control regarding accepting explosion, vision, possibility, saying no to flexibility for activities that work within the blame plasticity of the form of another possible world. Vulnerability is a constitutive condition of human existence, the fancy and pursuit of invulnerability is the greatest lie of neoliberalism. It allows the neoliberal doctrine to facilitate a modern day Hunger Game, which works to conceal and replace mutuality in collaboration with rivalry and a fear of annihilation. Does vote AFF to reflect on existential possibility of accident as an embrace of vulnerability. Vulnerability necessitates a disarmament of the very notion of psychic control over nuclear accident. Pataki 23. Vulnerability is an unavoidable feature of existence. Being human means being vulnerable in our bodies prone to disease, aging, and the physical and psychological harm. Vulnerability has been associated predominantly with violence, finitude, mortality, anxiety about survival, and the fear of annihilation. Fall of brother for the fancy and vulnerability. Vulnerability is seductive blindness to evade our dependency. The pursuit of false simultaneous recognition, disvalue, vulnerability, social discourse and policies shape how we experience and respond to our existential predicament, performative effect on policy, avoidance of vulnerability, political motive in neoliberal doctrine, pursuit of satisfying endless individual desire, neoliberal ideology, dismissive vulnerability to injury, disease and frailty is shoes bonds that connect us. Neoliberal doctrine promotes attractive and illusory rational utility, maximize our fear of social obligation, laws make respect of fears to be able to deflect attention from their feelings to address the needs of the most vulnerable. We aim to become invulnerable even if this is an unattainable goal. This makes us infinitely sentimental about ourselves and methodologically ruthless towards others. What is a way out? What can be a way out when there's no outside, no elsewhere? What do we do when the potential for unraveling lies behind our eyes? Confrontation with the devastation of accident provides conditioning to contemporary politics as well as exemplary processes for subject formation. Finding the means of naming, tracing, and disaggregating devastations means also to find ways of living in absences without the salving benefit of any finality. To do so may entail coming to experience a mutant form of joy known as anguish. Malibu 12. Advances in neuroresearch point they need to be anything through a new relation to the brain and hence also psychic destruction, loss and death, hunger, live changes according to affects. One, we cannot be without being affected fundamental role of emotion, cerebral life, cognition, not exercise, not supported by affects, reason without science, not reasoning. To think things must have value, otherwise indifference level that levels everything high level cognitive functions are attached to emotion, especially when it comes to risk of complex somatic markers, observable industries. The marker is race lose link connecting in life damage associated with disruptive ability to decide adaptation situations long risk. Patients have left reason through inability to be affected by improper affective lives, access to trauma, new identities of neurological patients have at one point in common, they show an infallible absence of questions how to think about subjectivity and trauma occurs. The entire affective potential is influence always not possible anymore to save badly indifferent to survival. The one who sees explicit plasticity is a re-education of the subject towards responsibility and new politics of self-configuration. Georgetown 15. Habit is where the condition becomes essential. Critique of fixed habits of rigidity because that's such an unloading of negative habits, danger afforded by plasticities that without desire to utilize knowledge of brains will default in the dominant ideology. Malibu opposed rigidity and flexibility, education organized in line with rigid rather than plastic neural plasticity is the logical self-reformation from the analogy form of process helps reconfigured involved with the destruction being responsible of letting the other come to education would be education once the plasticity sees where rigid ways of institutional practices consequences for a faulty practice because of the possibility of re-education mistakes can afford to be made plasticity often neurological ground ending education. I'll send this out afterwards. Theory must come first. They uncritically rush into failures of history makes historical revolutionary failure inevitable. That's Marjo. And 20 liquidation theory comes bad factor that there's no change in practice just by a noble cause for resistant to repression. Tendency something to clear opposite practice resistance doesn't involve repression. Still focus first. It plays addition fashion potential. Second, it evaluates itself tendencies directly versus fashion to respond to any problems given. The presence of the theory of practice and common or non-reflective practice to be impossible cannot be found out. Then through theories much more capable of practical and strength of objectivity practice. Unreflective actionism that arises actual theories the effects of reflection on some of the other actions and incentivized creation of critical self-reflection, critical examination of position has a task to renew subjectivity.
Sending this out right now with where it's marked and
Just let me know.
yeah, give me 1 second. If you pull it, it'll go up. Like pull it down.
Like pull on the actual screen, not just the recording.
Okay, I sent it. There you go.
You have to.
You made it worse.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna drop it. Oh, what was that about nerds?
There we go.
go.
Okay.
It's still going up.
Alright, crosshair.
Let me just make sure I receive.
Yep.
I don't know.
About like a doorknob. That helps. I just said if it helps, it's about a doorknob, but never mind. Like preview of the.
Alright, are you all good for crosshair?
We can figure this out later, it's fine.
Okay.
You're good, yeah.
Yeah.
You've said we need to reflect on the existential possibility of accident as an embrace of vulnerability. Is the 1AC that reflection?
The 1AC is part of a process of embracing vulnerability, yes.
A process. What else is there to that process?
What do you mean? Like,
Well, you're implying there's
Well,
more
yeah,
beyond.
so we've
just
defended a
embrace.
theory of the subject. Our Malibu evidence indicates, and our Frataki evidence says all subjects are ontologically vulnerable to accident. Our point is that there are two ways this can go down. Either we stave off that vulnerability, this is the project of Delgado's idea of control, rigging our brains, or we can direct ourselves to a more positive orientation of vulnerability that allows for a relationship to accident that can foster possibilities of care, etc.
Care, etc. Okay, so, okay, I think I understand. How do we determine if that reflection is desirable?
Zach, you want to take this?
Yeah, our argument is that the reflection of, like, the existential reflection should be determined as desirable based on their, like, theoretical ability to explain the subjects in relation to each other, subjects and how they interact with politics, etc. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
the
so,
point of
like,
the app
So,
is,
you know,
like,
obviously we have to be NEG.
these are theories.
Is it
that are
accurate that
correct.
you all are saying that we should say that embracing vulnerability is bad or present like a competitive method that's better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is that?
So then, why is that good?
Our argument is that the process, so like part of the process of existential reflection is reflecting on theories in relation to other theories and the ways in which they think about how subjects interact with the world and with one another.
Okay,
I think
sure.
like that process is a good one to engage in
Yeah,
self-reflection.
that makes sense. You said earlier reflection should be determined desirable based on its ability to explain things. So say like, how do we determine, whether or not how do we determine like how well something explains?
Okay, I'm gonna stop you here. Like, you're gonna ask how do we determine x, etc. At
Yeah.
some point, all things in debate inevitably end up being subjective, right?
No, I understand,
Our
right?
point,
But like,
however,
there has to be some criteria we use, right? So
well, it's like the process of debating is one that elaborates those things. We think that like judges decide on those things. Inevitably, aspects
No,
of
I
those
mean,
decisions
the
will be
question is how do
subjective.
the judges decide on those things?
Whether the app is a worthwhile departure from the status quo and
Okay, and what is the app's departure from the status quo?
and embrace of vulnerability.
By who?
We think that like it is good for all subjects to engage in.
All
We think that
subjects
there are
should-
like multiple levels of that engagement. One is like the ways in which we think
Okay,
that
is
we
there
reflect
an
on that
in-debate
round.
thing for that? Like, is there?
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
multiple levels thing I was talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
The
What's
ways
the
that like
in-debate part?
we think that like engaging the app itself is a process of reflection insofar as like researching, negating, all of
Okay,
that
that's
stuff that I already explained.
Um,
But also like
I think I
theoretically it's
understand.
good for people.
What is the connection between vulnerability and nuclear weapons?
So a couple of layers. Our Jarvis evidence describes, I guess the best place to start is Delgado. The reason why this is important is
We don't have
Delgado's
a ton of time, so just.
Yeah, Delgado's idea was that we can control the possibility of nuclear explosion by quite literally rigging our brains. This was a psychological understanding of control of the nuclear by controlling the brain. We think that's bad.
10, we're gonna ask one more question. Does the 1AC defend the United States restricting its nuclear forces?
What do you mean by the United States? And what do you mean by restrict? And what do you mean by nuclear forces?
Okay, that's fine.
We have not gotten a vital yet.
9:50. 9:50.
They're not for us. When is he sent?
How many pieces of paper? Actually, I have a fuck ton of paper. I'm just gonna grab a full stack. I was like debating this whole tournament at a deficit, like no paper.
I'm gonna grab the other big desk from the other room real quick while that's getting pulled up.
If it helps, it's 5 days.
I just grabbed a stack, so.
Can I borrow your stand?
Yeah, it's over there, sorry. I would get up and like, I will trip over myself and knock over all of these tables. This boot is like the most unwieldy thing.
You sent it, yeah?
Yeah. 5, please.
5?
Judges, good?
1 second.
Yeah.
Give me 1 sec to grab that time.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that?
I made it a while back.
Oh, it's cold.
Yeah.
Am I on the chain? Nope.
Oh.
I do. God damn it.
Can you just ask Zach? I'll tell you right now.
Z-I-N-O-B
C-I-N-O-B.
Z-A-C-H
C-H.
at Gmail.
I believe that was
I'm gonna wait for Zach, you want to speak?
Yeah, I would. Unless you're on any cards.
There's a lot.
I think
Did you give an order?
Yeah, 5, please.
I love having an email from Het and an email from Kuzma right next to each other in my Gmail. That brings me back to like sophomore year of high school.
High school, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're good.
Good.
Let's do it.
Okay, starting 10 seconds. Okay.
First off, top county, the next not to join on top class, United States meets the government, prime entities, executive intent, take its order meaning the U.S. and non-nation through federal government entities consistent with, given or interval the federal and the U.S. is not private entities, restriction means limitation relative, that's 1 unit, and 2 restrict means set limits, modification, style restriction, modification, restrict compared to the original rights belonging to the government upgrade, and 91 note the singular rights inoculating the U.S. and the singular sets nuclear force to be delivered warheads and warheads themselves are sent, and 12 nuclear forces to the government's meaning of delivering warheads and warheads themselves to the combination that provide military capability but negative for fairness and clash of body topics, deny the rule of negation debating daily competitive which creates incentive for teams to retreat from controversy and force the next first characterize the then debated which factors debating in detail proper research and impact and truth debate as well as discussion comes to negation topical stations produce and editor that strategies that progress the debate pedagogical benefit you disclose plans or bad districts remember for fairness and fairness given for competitive what to be done independently church case ball prepared opponents create sparring partners failure to iterate produces false stack on presumption fiat is good at position debaters to judges as even if Fiat is good at position debaters, as judges as budding critiques while maintaining the format of the game. I will not read the card. Next off, the critique. The 1ECC is universal in favor of local fragmented knowledge. It surrenders the ability to define the future of neoliberal Japanese universal. It's not nearly impressive, but it will be under unfettered capitalism, and the case cannot solve it. Hester and 17 emphasis on fragmentation, units, instructional analysis different. In which you both strategy generative, but this empowerment, local fragmented, partial knowledge are not sufficient to contest expensive capitalism problems, are not localized or abstract society over progressive politics and nature's future. Warranty policies gather momentum, politics of intervention starts from nothing expressed in advance, affirming reflection without specific practice to seize power, opens to form the one for surveillance and competition. They're literally defenseless against the many paths of defense of capital. Only the alternative self 17 study is about politics, it's only about the occasion for politics studying ministry for mutuality and antipodes, and can be actually since something reaction at the beginning of the occupational form of collecting public study in the absence of concrete demands, major problem without avoiding collective studies, some that the defense capital, and a state where studying the relational wave of repression reflective includes the FBI, Homeland Security, Stock Exchange, University Corporation, police, local government's repression against the door to the reabsorption copiers, and with a non-profit industrial company started with business ventures to profit back to study. Isn't probably the politics merely open for politics to be one between AFF, and the last forever people. One little predictability, food, shelter, medical care. The question is how to seize upon open and carry forward into real revolutionary movement. These questions have to be answered, or else the market will come knocking with an endless list of answers. Sure, the state will come knocking down the door, start draws, guns drawn, the encounter will take hold. You will foreclose as the crowd is approaching redirection, exhaustion, or repression. Capitalism locks in numerous existential level catastrophes of repressive violence that turns case counter. And 22, environmental destruction, conflict over resources, deterioration of social cohesion triggers global crisis, resulting right-wing populism, fascism, the public safety, strip prioritize and sold prisons, exploit labor, and police seldom respond. The catastrophic die of billions before 2030, limits include the water, minerals, climate, species, loss of capacity, declines of resources, replenishment, which feedbacks generate discontent, further disrupting systems. The alternative is to affirm the model of the Communist Party that solves and connects the local struggle to a movement for international liberation, explicitly formats blueprints into material and prefigurative politics that's going to and 18-bit building, and no power strategy can be best forwarded through party organizing the law of the movement, solidified a revolution, socialist thanks to revolution, not really possible to power. Respond by building institutions that can meet people's needs. We offer relief from capitalism in order to mobilize the base. We need to have already done the work of building a communist party. It's not enough to meet people's needs. We must build the institutions that dual power must refuse covert from organizing instead have a public face. The Communist Party membership is formally unified around the party line. Democratic centrist is making holding party members kind of unifying action and for educating and empower communities to theorize new communist theory while organizing to fight for liberation formal structures. Allow individual locals to have a voice and open debate, but also unify church and party organizing laws for organizing, be held accountable with unity for
transforming to sharpen strategies to help correct chauvinist idea, accountability to Christian peers, and colonial frequently infect leftist organizing forward procedure allows us to address those organizations, not to adopt recruitment, education, communist theory, and praxis, and military apology. Comrades capable of defending institutions from state terror and unified national party will be the long-term goal. Next off, the accountable the United States should abolish its nuclear arsenal and commit to advocating for global nuclear abolition. Tells everyone is the impact that is material and about nuclear violence, including accidents, and 22, disarmament of all complete relinquishment of nuclear arsenal by state, including physical disarmament of all warheads and means of delivery. The actions that formerly nuclear state would have to take on a non-nuclear state under the NPT on conceptual disarmament involves complete disarmament. Next off, the PIC endorsed the 1AC sans its application to nuclear forces. The 1AC's note of nuclear forces repeats and concealment thesis to nuclear criticism. The effort to communicate neuroplasticity through nuclear forces intends to reveal the truth of the violence of militarism. However, its metaphysical treatment invests in the fantasy of nuclear warfare. The 1AC continues their process of repetition, compulsion, whereby Hawks and Doves desire the bomb above the 1AC Matson, and they seem to understand the bomb as a problem. It's a democratic oversight reflecting a prayer after the rudder with the political merits and change symbolic action of the bomb as a symbol of human annihilation, discursive construct that challenges the limitations of communication imbued with its own agency. Study of Cold War legacy misses the cultural force of the atomic weapons and gradual events takes the bombs influence over post-apocalyptic fantasies. The scholarship believes rendered about terror and affect compulsion or repeated should be stayed still kept by the efficacy of the strategies meant to confront nuclear violence by challenging its discursive conceal, but uses belief the same time we can't believe conceal the word nuclear war. The implication is providing new vocabulary for public debate would enable democratic deliberation. The economy of nuclear discourse has been the attempt to get rid of the real to have the bomb as really is. Engaged scholarship requires criticism of not only the language of the bomb, but underlying ecology of desire that sustains it. Next off, the counterplan. Because Georgetown forgoes firms and other base tax vote negative to reflect the existential possibility of accidents, embrace vulnerability, and endorse the United States should pool $50 billion per year to end world hunger as directly implemented by communities that it serves. That's all WFP 22. Can we end world hunger? Yes, we need $40 billion per year to feed all the world's hungry people and end global hunger by 2030. This must be like large amounts, but it's not. It's possible to reach zero hunger. Now, the case, vote neg on presumption. Their offense is not informative. This debate does nothing. They have no causal explanation in context of how they're able to spill out. Their method cannot causally and reverse causally solve their impacts, even if it's a cause. Ballots don't causally connect their impacts, and ballots fail. Kornberg and the activists win. Then the adversary knows root causes remain unaddressed. After social strategy change have consequences such as factualization to interpret race, gender, or perspective or strategy attack this adverse social strategies have reached diminishing returns. Now, Malibu's theory of neuroplasticity is incorrect. TBSG and 16. Malibu's enthusiasm overtakes responsibility. I've already run with itself. Malibu considered neuroplasticity over algorithm. Sorry, no, the plastic is a form of explosive. Does not mean we to leapfrog the way plasticity explosive social revolution. Say neuroplasticity implies social revolution. There are other cases of being used as freedom. And offensive to NAFTA, yes, you can't force brain through a series of wishful associations into being something that is integrated a world you would like to see freedom and rebellion. Or a lovely notion that justification is in how stems from the cells from become themselves or been at the epitome of the world. They continually express their brain self-organization value. Aesthetics fail, no template for ethics about 19. Aesthetics come back down with the thought emergence of new art led to cultural choices to mark social ascension that a consequence withdrawal of lower arts culture in the 1500 clergy nobility emerges. The men's and whites abandoned popular culture. This has become less and less true that art and culture cease to serve the divine line lost. That sense vaguely iterated replace literacy intelligentsia. Art lacks a visionary gleam that only reflects society back itself, can no longer fulfill anything than intrinsic function replaced by market value. Aesthetic resistance fails recognition, and 20 neoliberalism aesthetics lost its political force that maybe once had political economy and when thoughts have development very categories used. Articulate aesthetics have gone weird. The scratch that card, not reading it. Reading Grove is pedagogically inconsistent. He helped publish a military white paper and concedes that we should develop a new national security framework. He is an advocate for NFU such artists in Grove 20. The national security establishments to develop skills and flexibility to adapt unexpected COVID, release vulnerabilities to supply chain, society, economy, and national security rather than definitive conclusion, policy recommendations, to tackle challenges to consider the future, defy accepted probabilities to affect the DOD. Malibu's ad hoc combination of affect theory and neuroscience is the basis for politics. There's no theoretical coherence that it can't spill up. Sure, and 15, if thinking is always an afterthought, we can always reliably count on how it actually been affected. Affect occurs and operates in a black box most we cannot formulate a basis for political judgment. How could the masses embrace such regimes? Affect intensity lacks no structure. By definition, affect theorists romanticize the unknowable food materiality. Theorists play down obstacles. They want to eat their cake and have it too. Those and values affect manipulation for enhancing social control. Freudian psychoanalysis false. Fares and Zeppi psychoanalysis for theoretical imagination challenge and refuted a wide range of evidence as solid evidence consequences itself. Imposed isolation of empirical sciences, technologists encourage research. Attachment theory does not take into account biological vulnerabilities. Gene environment interaction evidence remains. Then meta-analysis 14 studies conclude limited. Studies evidence concluded not justified because small samples and small effect sizes. No accidents. Overwhelming empirical data. They do not escalate temperatures. At 11 in 70 years, there's not been accidental launch. Procedures for simply during the Cold War. There's no more robust today. No system is infallible. Probability small. Human reasoning is from infallible. It's not like a lot for deterrence. We have been lucky. Is unverifiable. Studies show nukes reduce war probability approaches zero. There's not seen to be Korea. Deep to Forcia, Berlin, Ukraine, South Asia, able Archer, Gulf War, South Asian crisis to envision nukes. It is one thing to have a finger on the button. Is another. Highest authorities been prudent exercise in war games that showed possessors reluctant. Symbolic affirmation backfires. Thus vote neg to vote AF, coast and 9. Everyday resistance and ignores material conditions. conditions as an environment struggle analysis to learn that the futility and entrapment practice neither AFF or material condition challenge brought destruction powers to remain arguing against resistance to interpret material conditions and reorganizing powerful groups practices to reproduce power. The former involve pressing power dominate differ is necessary to do more. It must be demonstrated. Every new resistance reinforce domination. They oppose resistance helps power to work better. I'm good.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Cool. Status of the op?
Status quo is always an option.
Cool.
Against untopical.
Topicality, what is the locus for predictability?
The resolution.
Well, like words in the resolution or what?
Words in the resolution.
Okay, words in the resolution. If we redefine words in the resolution, what metric does the judge use to evaluate whether our words are better than yours?
One is like the predictability of
Well,
those.
that's circular because he said the words are predictable and then the metric we use is predictable. Like,
No, the words are just definitions that we think these are predictable, but if
Yeah,
you
but
read other
why?
ones, we can debate
But-
about
but-
which
so
ones.
hold on, why?
So like
How do
there
we
are different
determine which
reasons that
definition is
words
what?
could be more predictable. One is intent to define. Second is the context that they're used in.
Uh-huh.
Third is the words that modify others. So like it's
Within the
modifying
context.
United
Okay, so
States, the
when
United
we,
States
hold up,
modifies,
stop.
you know.
The only arguments you will make about why your words are more predictable than ours are.
We
We don't know what words or
Wait, but
reasons
it
that
seems
you're
like there
not
should be a
predictable.
universal standard for how we
Yes, we
determine which are
define words in the
predictable or not.
resolution. When you counter define them, we will give reasons that
No,
ours are more
but
predictable.
it seems like
We-
for
we-
your model to be objective, there seems
No,
to
we
be.
laid out a
correct.
number of them, but we
Yes.
can, it's all obviously dependent on what you say.
Also, more importantly, this is exactly what you said in 1AC Cross-X. When we asked you,
Uh-huh.
do you define these things? You're like, what are those things? Again, when you counter-define them,
Okay, so
we will
there's
give
no
reasons that they're not.
objective metric for determining your words are more predictable than ours and then debating it out.
There are objective metrics. Our objections to the metrics that you use will be outlined in the 2 and C.
Okay, cool.
We
Next,
outlined a number
alright,
of them.
Alright, I have more questions. Cap K, what is the line between universal and a local?
Well, again, yes, you might be right that there's a sliding scale,
Uh-huh.
but the 1AC that says that resistance starts in debate is something that we will impact turn, and second, explicitly
What does
not.
it mean to say starts and debate?
Well, so you said that the
When did
method.
we say start and debate?
Well, when Arnav asked you, is it related to?
Yeah,
does
Zach
it
said they're
occur-
different layers. Why is that the same thing as saying
Because,
start and
because the
debate?
1AC forgoes a prefigurative politics
What, okay,
outside these
prefigurative,
walls.
what define?
Imagining a set of egalitarian institutions and working to achieve those. Only the
Okay,
alternative is
cool,
done that via
so
communism.
prefigurative is tied to institutions.
Is tied.
In this context. yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. Forward evidence indicates that first line studying is a moment of counter, the opening up of the possible, the breeding ground of the new. Can politics ever involve study?
Yes, but they must be prefigurative.
Okay, sure. The forward evidence also says, quote, a major problem with this ongoing collective study, there's nothing to defend it, goes on to give examples of FBI crackdowns. What tactics, strategies does the alternative use to stop FBI crackdowns that sort of stop previous movements?
It's vertically organized. That
Okay, yeah, but
stops.
how does it stop crackdowns?
Because it is, the vertical organization is able to seize the means of production that results in crackdown occurring in
Cool.
the status quo.
Okay,
So it allows us to get.
how do you
opportunities.
mobilize the proletariat?
We will make arguments for why energy exists now, but it's the question of the form.
Wait, how do you know
it's-
energy exists now?
Our trainer evidence says it, and we will read cards in the block.
The trainer, so, okay, nothing from this year.
Wait, what did you
From
skip?
22.
What card was the one you skipped on case?
I skipped the Richmond 20 bits. Wait.
Alright, cool.
Let me make sure, actually, I'm 14%. Yeah, Richmond 20.
Yeah, you didn't skip anything off, right?
Nope.
Okay, cool.
I can't do that. This is what it needs to be, so. That's what I was saying.
Because it's not supposed to be.
Correct.
Jacob, what is it?
Give it a
Oh, Thank you.
If you could, because he's just not standing up properly. He's not gonna record anything but the ground. Sorry, Jacob.
Yeah, wait, let's go team bathroom.
Send the email shit.
No. Or, well, actually, yeah, probably. Wait, no, wait, damn it. Maybe a boys trip.
It's definitely a mistake putting the debate all the way down here.
Their case was fucking fire. I mean,
Don't tell them I said that, but
those Malibu answers, I had to write some shit. That was awesome. I love when people do
Are you going to the
research
restroom?
things. Yeah.
Hurry the fuck up.
I'm setting up the chain.
No,
thing.
I don't care, go to the bathroom.
No, I don't actually have to go. I just wanted to go with them because that would be fun.
Just an email chain.
Yeah.
Wait, are you setting up a new team?
I can add you now that they're all in the bathroom.
Yeah. UK wide debate.
It's what?
UK wide debate.
Yeah, it's already good. Y'all UK, so I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, I almost just sent an email without the document. That would've been nice.
Zach, is Peter debating in college?
Fuck no. He goes to Williams. They don't have a team.
Oh, damn.
And it would, like, they wouldn't be able to, like, have the money to do it because, Williams is like, it's like a 2-hour drive from, like, the nearest airport. It would suck, I think. Well, so isn't Dartmouth kind of far from the nearest airport too?
I don't know. Did you ever play with him in high school?
We wanted to so much. Oh yeah, we did actually, the Lakeland tournament.
Why wouldn't you guys?
My junior year.
Was there a barrier to you guys partnering up?
No, it was mostly just like, he had Nikhil and I had Drew and we were kind of chilling.
Yeah. You guys were already terrorizing the circle.
Yeah, I love Peter. He and I still talk about debate a lot.
Dude, if I had a brother that did debate, bro, you would just be running.
Well, the thing was, he was in like 5th grade, and I would be in the squad room doing debate stuff, and he would have to come after school anyway. So he would hang out for like 3 years. He just sat in the squad room, did homework, and for for 3 years. I was like, dude, if you started debate right now,
You would be.
it would be over. It would be over. Your senior year, you just own the circuit. And he was like, no, I'm good. I like soccer. And then he kept getting hurt. And then, like, freshman year of high school, he was like, all right, fine, I'll do it, I guess. And I was like, dude, if you had started when I told you,
Bro, you would be. I would, dude. I wish.
it's scary to think about if he had just listened to me, you know, like a little
Debate
better.
babies, bro. Like if your dad's in debate.
Dude, you know, Samir Barkanza, bro, he was in the squad room when Peter was in the squad room, which meant he was in like elementary school when he was in the squad room. He's been there forever.
Do you coach anyone?
I try. I just like I got a lot of shit going on. Like I got fighting, I've got debate, I've got I've got a job on top of that. All right. 2AC stuff has been sent. I actually have no idea what the order is going to be, so I'm gonna find out with you all right now. It's gonna be case, and it's gonna be the critique of capitalism, the nuclear forces thing, world hunger, our other app, the disarm thing, and then the T. I can't give a speech from this. Like my feet would just not work. Give me the
Here,
tall thing.
here's
Give me
this.
this. Yeah, take all that shit off.
You're gonna have to say that again, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm not very collected right now. Actually, I'll just come over here like Queen did. All right, it's gonna be case, then the cap K, then the pick on nuclear forces, then the world hunger counter plan, then the other counter plan about disarming, and then T. Did everyone else get the doc?
Yeah, just let me know.
Swear to God, if you fall. Alright, you good?
Yes.
The status quo is shaped by rational psyche, hell-bent on denying accidents, and inevitable ontological intervention. The impact accident denial is neurobiopower. One is Delgado's goal enshrined solution to nuclear crisis by rigging the brain as synonymous with a calculated approach to nuclear management. The programming of the mental environment ends up as a politics of the repressive control society and fascism, clinging to the rationalism in the face of accident needs going down, nukes bursting and guns blazing. Nuclear subjectivity is ontologically structured by accident through the destructive plasticity and devastation. There is no possibility for uninvention or return to the pre-nuclear. Radiation is a radical break of aging as event marked by the paranoid delusion of empire, the destruction of the radiation particle in the body, and the decay of stability, which means civilizational collapse is inevitable as long as we retain an attachment to the notion of our immortality. The only way to solve is the embrace of vulnerability. We must relinquish the will to control and understand ourselves as ontologically open to violence. In the world of ontological accident, mutual vulnerability means mutual care instead of mutual destruction, which refuses the notion of bodily perfection in favor of care relationships between people like differently able bodies and minds. And the balance stuff, the only way to solve is through aesthetic confrontation with accident is a way of thinking through the art of dying. You should vote after align your brain with ontological explosion, the rational linear paradigm, which is the only way to orient our subjectivities or evidence in the context of activism, not debate, which matters because of stuff I'll do on framework. Now, the Malibu wrong stuff, no, but there are evidence, assumptions, seed science to the right, it's Malibu. And 22, resist biomarkers from the living being itself, biomarkers means like way by the time institutions and political techniques, Nazism, basic scientific causes, revolutionary discoveries of biology forward. Alright, new political question, the ethical shield that surrounds biological discourse, now suffices to defense against capitalism, epigenetics reveals, being is open structure with some plural machines, memory, and ignorance, intersect bodies, must be thought of as interaction based on the question of divided living beings, and function question, living beings, the program, epigenetics allow different interpretation of fixed memory, different reads, clone memory from biotech, innovation, realized memory, the living being, everything's within us, discovery, stem cells, late to stem cells, forces look at both the future and the class technology as for medical use these cells and regeneration property, potentiality to sleep, and that's more body offer power resistance, interest deconstruction program, healing and anti-fracture, presume using the political subject reveal, feel, where audio in relation to death. Also, their evidence assumes kind of purity to science that Malibu is misinterpreting. All of our critiques are not just that that traditional science is wrong or bad, but that it is ableist and actively pathologizes differently abled bodies, which should frame their offense insofar as them saying that it is wrong and defaulting to literalist scientific interpretations is an enshrinement of ableism, a reason to reject the team. Now the affect stuff, affect first, nothing else leaves scope around. Now 12, psych neurological studies, range reasons damage affect areas of the brain, made people unable to risk how and lose the will to live, means VTL come first, and confident affect life, avoiding subjectivity or become ontological refugees, characterized as apathy, with only generates guarantees we willingly sign to catastrophe. The grove things, arguments are about refs, which means this is an offense for them. It's about the things that we say in the round. The Sherwin card is answer above, but this is a K of Masumi, etc., which means we don't have to answer it. The Freudian psycho stuff, not us. It's kind of irrelevant. The no accident stuff is irrelevant because nuclear thinkers think they are accidents. Our point is, in fact, that it is a delusion, it is a fantasy, and yet they still act on this notion of immortality and staving off accident. Vote negative, vote after bad model. Everyday resistance does solve only our radical challenge of humanist free rational man approach of mind offered away. Battle climate change, further addicted substitute and foreseen should be read as an add-on. That's Malibu. And 22, the brain maintains self-changing right becoming addicted to a neurotransmitter to find out after an after response to the corner being rolled out of change new. Like a stroke mechanism transferring expansion chemistry will be growing. And series elements create the integrated neuropsych ecosystem practice. Affect brain body chemistry and brain body chemistry affects human practice device. Or simple of addictive properties to go there, chocolate, tobacco, alcohol. Let it become a moment to induce and substance domination, present affective events only you. Additional helps limit the less of change between trouble and gifts and divorce. Let's rely on a new concept of teaching targeted the subject is many conscious animate freedom subject the answers you become addicted to and different towards the world is imploding me percent of starting and global system and nervous system and global and science being killed or destructive power ecology become a new political economy. They can't reject materialism. They make this debate a question of hypothetical political movements, and we do actually get affirmed because they haven't met the role of negation. They haven't won their theory of viewing the world as preferable. Just said the action of revolution is good. Case out ways. They don't solve the impacts. One is humanism, control, and fascism about their cold worshiping the attempt to realize the model of rational man with a command and control relationship to self and other. That's one AC grows. B is humanism subordinates nature. Rational sequels of history leads to Marxist ecocide and the Soviet pollution of the air. We'll see clearing of habitats. These spaces are to them means of production to be appropriated by man. 4 is 3 is the answer means, and they can't solve climate as a prereq. That's the add-on I just read, but no length or evidence of the study is bad. But the alt fail. 3 arguments. 1 is where impact trying to link to affect. The brain is affect from trade and politics. The only thing that explains how people are motivated and organized. The only thing that explains why people are addicted to capital. The main challenge of communism in the U.S. is motivating people, and they have no idea how to do it absent affect. They all become socialist organizers who are frustrated with working class for voting for Trump, which creates more polarization. Doesn't recruit enough to create meaningful change. 2 is crackdown and backlash. Intentionally underestimated those examples will only be small scale. Even large distances are crossed like BDP, Pinochet, Cop City. All prove that psychic rewiring must come first. Now, you should also refuse fear of death or aesthetic confrontation with it. It's the only way to prevent nuclear extinction or association with life and fertility. Denies ontological possibility of accident age, which ensures that every time they're presented with the specter of death, they lash out. This footnote 6 for 1AC. BTO outweighs their repression and denial of accident, which creates a disparate calculator total ratio of value through rational manipulation. The impacts fascism. Their paranoia about the loss of life is tied to a fear of loss of identity, which leads a scapegoating in politics, helping the frame of making us great again, which proves the nostalgia for authoritarian violence argument. For the third impacts ableism and ageism, clinging to the idea of death as a choice, remain alive should be rejected. Action requires you must abandon the humanist notion of free will because it always ends up in forced life. Therefore, teaching dualism hates the idea that neurological accident can assert the rationalist mastery of identity. They are fear of the rise of Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, lesion. The PIC, we didn't say nuclear forces. L, the world hunger thing. Cruel optimism is bad. Fantasy of fiat is all of our case of framework, and Delgado will controls violent counterplated and also work in soup kitchens, etc. Would have been a lot different, but you should reject cruel optimism for 2 reasons. 1 is perfection. A is the logic of their logic is the Delgado notion of just bringing and manipulating, making perfect, which is what the whole 1AC critiques, both attached to models of control and ableism. A reason to reject the team B is accidents ontological negation should not be premised on the assumption of making things perfect, but rather on the struggle for new theoretical understandings. That was stuff in process. The UN World Hunger Goals are bad, causing intervention and violence. If we can the thing here.
Oh, yeah. The last point.
Yeah. And there's no impact on 1 so the next counterpoint. 1, there's no impact on 1 and C2s or if the IK applies there and temperature control nuclear abolition does not solve the absence of lies in the ocean by eliminating nuclear way of eliminating the quality control, which is a myth theory. Is everyone's relying on the NPD, produce dividing people good and bad relations with race and imaginary, justifies intervention. That's stuff I did in the world hunger. UN is bad actor, directly engaged in politics control through coercive disease prevention operations. Means there's a risk that turns a solvency of the AFF indicts the starting point of UN impact, turns the end point of their politics, and makes them Delgado in the framework debate. The first resolve means produced by mental analysis, call no data produced by mental analysis. Disarming the inclusion of private reason or disposition to be hospital. The rest of the West are no data deprived of reason or disposition to be hospital. Destructive plasticity shows and their constant negation, instant pure negation, pure negativity is a question of absolute refusal, which also means no firm solves their offense, Fuller, Nova, and 19 Malibu concept of question of pure negativity zero model. And then has to do with negation and reducible affirmation and ability to give us always. And affirmative gesture saying yes to no. Categorical refusal is not possible. Negative possibilities of another order is neither affirmative or lateral refuse. Prohibits the other possibilities not coupled with another. The role of the AFF is to take a mental stance on the resolution. The role of the NEG is to argue. The AFF stands theoretically bad. Our model looks like theories articulate why they are the best way to answer the existential political protection topic. 2 reasons for 1 is existential horizon. Only our model allows us to think how we should
should relate to nuclear condition or being subject to radiation. Choose the Y comes first, focus on policy outcomes, ends up with ideas like Delgado's Supreme policy failure and open the door for worse violence. Affect is offense against their model. A is no one does debate because it's fair, which means our vision to debate collapses because it has no meaning. It's hard. B is their model requires aesthetic to be evacuated, becomes a waste of speech time with no strategic place. We try with our ability to play an app, their debates just all end up destroying. It's sad. There's monotony of evil. Just add one is here's order of affect, critical values, rooted fast in the hairway. 16. To what it all avoided, we collective produces system do not have self-mind survivors, avoided system central control, only static critical system or sapient, avoided the blue step, avoided leads. Let's have deadly past creative uncertainty, words and also I can surrender thinking about all you do will make the entity come through as human. It's being able to make friends with ourselves. Someone who can not recognize the entire French matter, dream matter, gold, not matter, the whole other space star. All fluid sensing influence, current friends and busy shop. This was a throwing image of the result of genocide. 2 is reading chaos and flipping negative every framework, who's all our offense. They enshrine the fascist procedural relationship to debate. They see themselves as a kind of pure neutrality. 3rd is accidents, a condition of possibility for changing debate at all, proven by local Western global race. You should view moments of critical reflection like the one he sees, the intervention of accidents to reformulate the norms of debate. 4 is wanting except when you see Bo Jensen, their overly rigid model of debate plasticity means we're always open for education to be willing to accept the risk their offense with our model. They say poetic and self-evolving, judge our preference, community norms and limb wall, self-regulated the plastic model. Debate with zeros or offense, the education stuff, any benefits of policy central logo-centric model be non-unique due to the rise of AI, but their understandings of debaters' brains like computers for research is bad. There will be zero net benefits doing research themselves, and as online disinfo increases, it means that you can find a card to say anything. Rise of AI frames all the reasons why they think their framework is good. Now there's flexibility. It's had contingency is essential to education. Their fear of unpredictability means that the most they can ever be is a rigid fixation on flexibility, where you can adapt but you never transcend your own epistemic horizons, which means brains automatically revolve to dominant ideological system. Only plasticity allows for self-reconfiguration by taking out form while also annihilating it. That's why I see Bo Jensen. That means this means that the use of some parts of debate doesn't prove anything for them because even as we use British reform in some ways annihilated in others. The fairness step, they're willing to impose fairness costs like denying occupation debate that's rim and 77 reality scales. There's no state law, there's no case we gain control over imposing more. They are all statements about truth or false experience of world weak, full of garbage demands, and will be predictable cause change contrary to require high degree of willpower to concern for more model reality, which is knowable demand of reality be predictable so weakness classical chaotic reality must produce obviously a minimum interpretations anti-like needs hand-around ramifications as limits and hammers of will the power crossed by the death stuff debating inevitably dies programs get shut down when they make the process of debating essential denial of fear of death. They view the next round, the next tournament as guaranteed. Their vision of debate is a cumulative process of memory, storing it for use later is made coherent by destructive plasticity, which impact turns their model of clash.
Good?
Yeah.
Wait, we're gonna take a look.
Okay, now you good?
Yep.
The case has several descriptions of fascism, environmental impacts, etc. What do you think that the AFF does to resolve those?
Yeah, so the framing of the Malibu card that I read on case is about the ways in which everyday practices are able to rewire our relationships to large political structures. So the way that Malibu thinks about the Anthropocene is as a political structure that not only exists as this broad concept of the way we think about ourselves, but also provides us with sets of material things that we then become chemically addicted to.
So what does the
Our
AFF
argument
do?
is that by rewiring the way we think about ourselves, by rethinking our own relationships to vulnerability in ourselves, we also rethink our practices.
What does that do about practices in the status quo that create it? So the one I
Well,
see
the framing of the Malibu evidence is it's not these big things that you're asking to provide of what movements, etc.
My
would you
issue
do.
is more
It's
so
about everyday
we are
things.
not asking the big things. The one I see has outlined the big things. So for instance,
No,
the
the one I
Globe
see-
evidence describes the politics of nuclear control and then says nuclear planners currently have this theory. What does the one I see
The
do
one
to
I
challenge
see
the
understands
Globe?
the politics of nuclear control as analogous to the ways in which control impacts us as, in this space. Our argument is that discussions about nukes presuppose a relationship of control to the world, and that is bad. We have not said
Wait, so
we
you
stop nuke people from nuking other people.
Well, okay.
Because we don't think that we can do that. That was the fiat K of your counterpart.
So if you cannot solve the external environment that creates the impacts outlined in the one I see, what does
Because
the one
the
I
app
see
is
do?
about is a
First,
self-reflection.
positive self.
The app is a relationship to oneself.
Yeah, so you
Our
can-
argument is that we should relate to these structures of control in a way that resists them
That's
through
also
vulnerability.
impact for you and Kumi.
It's like the VTL stuff. It's like
VTL for
well,
who?
this is going back to when you see cross-sects. It's it's important for individuals to do this both as a process of engaging the app is a mode of self-reflection, which means you're also reflecting right now as you engage the app. But 2, it means that broadly, theoretically, individuals should all do this.
Okay, sure. The answer to, okay, first, just reasons to reject the team independently.
Yeah, we were the ableism thing.
On the case?
Yeah, well, there were several internal links to the ways in which we thought
Can I get all of them?
Yeah.
So the first one was the thing on case. It's like your kind of essentialist understanding of science. It's like,
Sure.
here's the true science, it's bad. What is he critiqued all that, and you just said science true.
Yep.
The other thing was the thing on the counterplans. It's like this kind of will to perfection, this way in which we modify things to equal the perfect normative understanding of what it could be. That what is he also critiques that in the context of things like Delgadian relationships to the mind.
Got it.
And the third thing was the death. Is like your inevitable answer to death K will be like people should have a choice of whether to live or die. And our argument is there are certain kinds of events where that choice is taken away from them.
There are, okay, so let's talk about that.
Well,
There
yeah.
are events in the status quo where the choice is taken away from them, but why does that mean that everyone's choice should be taken away from them?
Well, the argument is that your frame has no mode of analysis for relating to those folks or understanding them, but the AFF does, because our relationship is one of mutual vulnerability and care, as opposed to just like, we have to incessantly assert our own immortality.
Okay. And can you just quickly explain why that's a reason to reject the team?
We just like think that if you're ableist, you should lose. Like what?
Wait, why is, okay, can you connect like the death cage to ableism things?
It was the stuff I said above. It's just like if you have introduced a frame of ethics for understanding how we should relate to life and death. We have said that that is bad. When you see critique those things, and then you like did them.
Okay, got it. The perm on the cap K was just do both?
Yeah, it was just like, if you do this revolution good thing.
I see. And on hunger, is there a perm?
No.
Yeah, that's.
How much is that?
6:30.
Wait, 6:30. I have 6:05. That's right at 9:50.
I also have 6:30, but 6:05 is fine. We can go with that.
forgot you're the 2 I learned of. I know, I don't know. Hello. I'm going to the bathroom alone now.
I hate everything.
Bro. You didn't have to.
No, he was holding it the whole time, because I asked him, I was like, yeah, you can go. No, I don't need to.
That's
It's like we're
absurd.
damn kids, you know, it's like get in the van, anybody gotta go to the restroom, no. Huh?
I was gonna say, apparently it's like long-term bad for your pelvic floor if you like force yourself to go and you really don't have to go.
If you force yourself to, or if you hold it in.
If you force yourself to go. Like if you're like, oh, well, I'll go now just in case because there's a bathroom here now. But like you don't
Oh, it's
actually
bad for
really
you?
have to go. Yeah, it makes the bladder like, oh, well, I don't have to hold liquid, alright. And so it'll just like,
So now the question is, did he hold it in intentionally, or was he actually?
was he being smart?
Who knows?
But holding it in too long probably has similar consequences.
I don't know, I think they're probably
Listen,
training your muscles
there was a
to
movie
not
that talked
accidentally
about-
piss yourself when you're older. Okay.
Put the room all the way down here. What idiot did that?
Put the room
It
on
dings.
down here.
No, it's not.
Oh,
Nick Ryan, he goes by not, you know,
gotcha.
for whatever reason. It's just his name on the ADA slide.
Can we?
That's dope.
Can you do the card back?
Carton?
The card thing back. Cart. Cart. Back. Cart.
Who am I carting back? Oh, this one?
The one-footed debater. There you go.
I sent it out. The order is just.
Crazy.
I was so ready for the world hunger versus Malibu debate.
You're
Oh, yeah, there's a one, yeah, hey, you're gonna win, look at, oh.
That was,
Alright,
No, I didn't mean disrespect by that.
no, I agree.
alright, we're good.
That's not the, okay, everyone good?
Yep.
Tweezy continued to undisclosed plans for rad destroys for rad private fairness and clash per se. Promoting the right competition, not just embracing the best method of vulnerability. Disclosure would make the debate more engaging and independent to punish them for not flowing. Debate begins with a negative response. It's unlike other outlets for expression, students are burdened with the necessary reputation within competitive constraints. All other venues or relationships already offer the a chance to agree and collaborate. Only debate forwards to start terms of disagree or lose. Georgetown has already accepted and acknowledged the intrinsic value of the negatives role. They chose to introduce their pedagogy in a tournament format and requires rejoinder. We respect the timer and expect us to respond with the 1AC, and it's a critical part of their 1AC solvency because they said reflection requires the NEG to respond to impacts one class. The process of classification is prior question to the number of depth necessary for mastery of any subject matter, but it can't function in an evidence-based format without a topical stasis that guarantees an even distribution of research and opportunity to predict material before the parent is released. Lack of negation turns against their model, produces momentary specialists who display mastery methods in debate but are ultimately unprepared to defend their strategies against the low tree of opposition. Absent testing presumed the 1AC is false, setting up an independent presumption ballot to fairness. It's a necessary norm to preserve because it maintains the equal prospect of victory for debaters in the tournament. Lost fairness, significant advantage to their revenue because it undermines the very foundation of what makes debate a competition in the first place. That outweighs mutual interest. Victory is the first and foremost priority in this context for both us and Georgetown. If it isn't, they can just read their 1AC and lose and will win, and both of us have achieved what we want from debate. Fairness is thus a shared value of all participants, so it must come first. Georgetown wants judges to fairly evaluate their arguments, even if they personally disagree, and let's be honest, we don't agree with theirs, and while there may be different reasons for why people join, the bottom line is that when we get here, preparation strategies and tacticals are usually made with the win in mind, especially in this context. They don't meet our tradition. The United States means the government, not private entities. They had no counter definition of this word. Ikuda is citing the most ordinary common meaning, which is consistent with dictionary definitions. Only we have evidence that it's widely accepted, and that makes no counter definition makes the counter winnable. The plan must be the basis for decontextualized by cross-sex and tags. It must be clear from the plan whether or not they meet this interpretation, or it justifies AFCONDO, or they can justify any phrase that loses topic as their topical advocacy. Nuclear forces includes at a minimum the weapons, delivery systems, and the platforms and systems, NC3, and infrastructure. No counter definition. They don't meet it because they just have subjects embrace vulnerability. Allow them to actively choose which words in the resolution to adhere to. Creates infinite combinations of of topical apps that are only related to one word in the res, so you should reject their counter-interpretation on face. Now, the resolved interpretation, everything preceding resolved is what matters as per their interpretation. They must analyze restricting nuclear forces, and there's no way to know whether their analysis is good or bad without depending on much change from the status quo and analyzing its benefits. They picked the wrong definition. Breakdown by mental analysis assumed it's a verb in the resolution. Resolved is a noun. It is a resolution that stands on its own, followed by colon, and it's not modifying something else. Collins' first definition also goes neg. They're citing the fifth one. Collins noting that resolve want to come to a definite or an assertion about determining something resolved before colon denotes a formal resolution. AWS 13. The colon introduces formal resolution after the word resolve. Resolve refers to policies, words, and phrases. 64 definition of resolve is to express determination by resolution or vote as it was resolved by the legislature, similar to an act which is to establish by law, not the disarm thing, not responsive. Even if it disarm means to deprive of means to be hostile, the actor doing that action must be the United States government, and they don't meet it because they don't actually change the nuclear forces either, which is the physical weapon systems, which was above. Now, mental stance, I'm going to do that first before Fuller links to all of our offense, doesn't even require departure from the status quo. We can make a mental stance against violence or racism, which are truisms that are impossible to negate. Also think about what policy this would do this interpretation, district court acts, international actor, fiat, individual politicians as actor, etc., are all topical under their interpretation, which dodges on that ground, and they can metaphorize to infinite forms of structural violence that they eliminate instead of the physical and nuclear weapons. Our interpretation is most predictable. One definition is good, common grammar is necessary for mutual agreement on the meaning of the resolution, create political literacy. The debates are over which interpretation is best for debate. They create a middle hazard to present definitions that meet just one criteria instead of evaluating definitions in context against each other, which answers their argument that will be applied probably from cross-ex. 2, turn it proves their offense, fairness, and competition are ideologically entrenched values that motivate us to interpret the resolution legalistically and context, because the resolution says adopt and no first use policy, suggesting the rest should be interpreted in that manner. Now, their fuller evidence is wrong. Unlike their assumption, topicality debates are mutual negotiation, not an imposition of a hegemonic interpretation. AFF has equal power to say any of the resolutional terms mean anything else. Topicality meets the role of the neg. They clarified in cross-ex because it's a reflection on their choice to forego the resolution explicitly. No perms is a promise, not a mandate in their model. And even without perms, truisms under their model are impossible to negate. They say method debates. 1, topicality improves that anticipation of a stable mechanism, enhances the detail of Kaling's and all explanation. 2, their defense doesn't assume a model where their counter-interpretation is universalized. Teams would have to prepare the whole field rather than just a select few. Teams, as every app would be modeled in generics and no threat of team means teams would be incentivized to make app as uncontestable. 3, the permutation becomes OP. Neg links can outweigh when they see advantages if they're that close, and apps can consolidate prep around 2 to 3 positions, while negs have to prep infinite metaphors, group existential horizon, and serial policy failure. These DAs are excellent negative critiques of common advantages of prolific deterrence, but also not intrinsic to the topic. Apps can advocate a subaltern approach to disarm per cross-ex, but they have to get to the end point. A status quo nuclear policy may be entangled with some universal humanity or affect, but that is not a reason to run from the topic. Disarm NFU and any affirmative counter to the American first agenda refuses the words of nature of nuclear weapons. 1, no subject formation. Our offense outweighs theirs into the way we communicate in here, but individual debates will never change our subjectivity because competition over determines personal beliefs. We read contradictory arguments, which sides are more influenced by family, friends, and school. The competitive incentives means teams that write better of T blocks and then double down, not accept that they're right to the extent that it does. It's from in-depth research across the year. The internal link to all of that is predictable limits because research, not contact with an argument, and it changes how we think. Error neg. Georgetown hasn't cracked the topic. Definitive proof that the topic is irredeemable requires a year-long process of testing and contemplation that is yet to occur. 2, our model solves on the neg. They can read critique nuclear restriction with whatever angle they want on the app. They can read an app that departs from those which was explained above, which 1AC Grove advocates. If they're right about the resolution being irredeemably bad, then neg will win every round under their interpretation by reading their plasticization critique of nuclear managerialism, a stronger rejection of the topic than theirs. Now, they also, deterrence isn't the only argument that disagrees, and unpredictable advocacy guarantee they debate it more. It can also include advantages of rough justification for how we relate to debate, but they have to be tied to a topical plan. They say we rate a KF. We do it because of competitive incentives, and it's unfalsifiable to read into our intent outside this debate, and its question models debates so this is irrelevant. Heroway is word salad, justify new to in our answers to recontextualization. 1, they link. They exclude apps that don't deal with the topic at all, demonstrating they are not a fully open system, but some constraints are necessary in the context of debate. Absolute freedom doesn't work because one's affirmation can trade off with another's. The whole thesis of our T argument is about how to equalize those two equitably. They can't have their cake and eat it too. The 2BC counter-defined words, and it's no secret. The 1AC included discussions of nuclear weapons. Georgetown voluntarily offered their for negation, and if they don't conform to the norm of asking you for the ballot, you can vote for us to fulfill both the reason they came to debate and ours, which was getting the ballot. 2, no self-regulation. The desire for self-interest blows past natural limits. Georgetown isn't creating a self-regulating model of debate. It's more accurate to say that 2A's under their interpretation break the natural limits of the previously constrained self-regulating environment, which is because of topicality. 3, turn. Absolute unpredictability for the neg comes with extreme uncertainty for the apps. Apps only have to predict a small number of positions and can easily predict neg strategies. So really, their embracing of unpredictability is only for the neg, while the app, it gets absolute predictability for burnout. Their interpretation is worse for disabled, but it varies forcing research on an infinite number of apps in place the neg research burden, turning every impact. And now, sorry. is not fear of unpredictability as a substantive critique of the after refusal of the resolution, but their critique is intrinsic to all disagreements, all negative arguments can be construed as an attempt for demands for productivity or predictability, and their method debates offense demonstrates they over-prioritize approaches to debate that focus on ethicality over those that came here for friends and fun as well. Even if now, the historical legacy arguments are wrong. They have no zero causal evidence that there's an exclusive relationship between the lack of plan and marginalized participation in TEAS past. It's not as future as moved closer and closer to a reasonable defense of the topic that incorporates many of the AFF concerns. 2, exclusion of arts is exclusion of people. T is a floor, not a ceiling, which was largely explained above. Topicality is also a question of mottos debate. We could have prepped their app because we're too busy prepping every other app in their jurisdiction. So our offense still applies even if it's just this debate. 1, topicality 101, voting for T is voting for the argument. The negative burden of the majority against AFF did not meet their burden of proof by violating the resolution. It's a normative claim about which interpretation is best, not one that requires winning you when your auto is actualized. 2, infinite regress. Every team could get up and say, we will adopt our interpretation because of this and thus make it predictable, which basically means 0 T and 0 limits impacted by all our offense above. They can't solve our offense 1 concessionary ground competitively. Disincentivizing class cautious teams to rush to the extremist generics of the world. They compete with everything, which was largely explained above. 2, no radical limits or incentive to rush to the margins of every topic, even if the advantages may be worse. Small apps have no ground, so they just have to fight on anything. Now, the AI thing is wrong. It's even relevant to how we engage AI, but our argument is just the debate is kind of this game that we play, so the skills are less relevant, but AI means that they wouldn't matter at all, so if they're right, then we should win. Their absolutist claim is also both unsubstantiated and links to them because they made arguments about how reflection is valuable to develop those skills as well. No fairness terms, which also enters ROM 1 term. The resolution is the great equalizer. It sets the terms of debate and provides clear guidelines for teams to research, abandoning fair procedures, makes every other fairness violation where structural fairness requires procedures to function. Their model will be exploited by large policy programs, will monopolize their advantage over smaller squads. 2, answered above, fairness is communal value shared by both parties and has extrinsic justification. Equity isn't any more arbitrary than their impacts. The aim is to ensure both sides an equitable prospect of victory. 3, rejoinder is key. Speed into coaching and resource disparities can be offset by clever strategies or new arguments that take coaches out of the room, but they have to be deviating from the resolution entirely makes that unworkable, turns ground into concessionary polemics, and lets the app retreat to truisms.
Alright, good. Okay. Your answer. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Your answer to the grim evidence was like the app gets absolute predictability. What about end world hunger was predictable?
Well, the negative advocacies need not be predictable.
Well, no, but your point is that like the app gets to monopolize the train of how debates occur, and I was like,
Right,
well,
like our
what about
point is that
the
end
way
world
that the debate
hunger
occurs?
is a bad counterplan, and debates that center that would be bad, which is why your interpretation is also bad if it allows for that.
The mental stance.
Ideally, every
wait.
app should be able to say perm to that, and that debate would not occur.
Wait, the mental stance against violence, against racism, etc. How does that meet our definitions? Like, how does that meet our inter?
Well, it was assuming the other stuff, so,
Like what other stuff?
because
Like
you
what's
kind of
the separation
separated it,
between
in
our
the,
modeling
you
that?
kind of separated it in the 2AC, you just said the role of the app is to adopt this mental stance, so I answered that kind of independently. But it also applies to that stuff. For instance, I could take the mental stance that nuclear weapons cause violence. That's unnegatable.
That's not a reduction by mental. That's fine. Anyway,
That is
okay,
a reduction by
the,
mental
wait,
illness.
wait,
I'm
the,
reducing the power of nuclear weapons
the like
by
assumed
considering
wait,
how
Arno, the assumed
it's useful
judges
to create it.
Arno, the assumed judges fairly evaluate thing, like the like you rely on fairness too, etc. Like, do you not do preps? Like, is this not like, do we not know that judges are not tabula rasa? They have like, you know, preconceived notions, they have paradigms, all this stuff.
Sure.
Why
But
does
you're
that, why do we
asking the three
presume a
judges
blank
in
slate
here
fairness?
to move away from
Yeah, but
whatever
what does that
preconceived
mean?
notions
What
they
is-
may have.
What does that mean, evaluate fairness? When did we ask them to do that? Like,
Well, if they're, because every argument you're making, if you say we dropped something, that suggests they should evaluate the debate based on the fact that we dropped it.
yeah, but
which
why is
fair
that, why is
evaluation.
that what you're saying is like, it's based on a notion of fairness?
It is based on a notion of fairness, because you're expecting them
That
to
seems
not
like-
impartially agree with our arguments. You're expecting them to and not be partial to arguments, or and impartially evaluate both
Okay,
arguments
that's
that
fine.
you're making.
The equitable prospect of victory thing, what does that look like? Does that mean that like, you know, if I'm debating a team much better than me, I have 50% chance of winning anyway? Like,
No, I
what
mean,
do you
that's
mean by
the
that?
procedure part. So
Okay.
it's tied to the idea that just based on the topic, 2 equal teams, right, skill should have.
What do you mean by,
prospect.
like, so you mean like aggregate of rounds, 50% should go to AF, 50% go to NEG?
No, that's not
So then what does it-
procedural fairness
So
at
what
all.
does it mean?
It's that when either team enters the debate, they shouldn't be unfairly disadvantaged to an extent. So to an extent, it is
I
close
asked
to
you to
50%
define it and you
thing,
used
but it's not,
unfair.
well, also the 1EC is a critique of this objective metric to define everything, so every cross-ex question you're asking is kind of a double turn with that. But independent of that, I mean, it's not 50-50, but as close to that as we can, yeah.
Okay, Cool.
And we
Why
can
is
debate about
first,
subjectively which gets us
So the rereading of our evidence, why is first versus fifth the standard of predictability? Like you're like, oh, you read the fifth definition. Why is that relevant?
Well, we actually think this one makes more sense in the context of the resolution.
What's the warrant for that?
Based on the fact that resolved : then the resolution suggests that
That's
it is
the
the
other
thing that
card
we
you
come
read.
to a
That's the army
determination
card you
about.
read. I'm not asking about that card. I'm asking about.
No, that was the one I just said. To come to a determination, to come to a definite or earnest decision about, determined to do something. So in that context, like the United States is determined to do this.
Do you want to take prep for this now, or do you want to give it after one hour? After.
Okay, so for card should be set. We are all here. Captain? Category? Take the disarm category. The hunger category. Nuclear forces pick.
Sorry, Cap K, hunger, counterplan, nuclear forces.
No, disarm is in between.
Oh, my bad.
Cap K, and hunger, then forces pick, and then the case. Correct.
Okay. I still haven't gotten the document yet. Let me see what's there. Is it? Very good. Okay.
Good, just good. Cool.
Captain confirm just test competition. Extinction debt narrative is not a reason to reject the team. At worst, reason to reject our which we are not extending, but we will defend it. One, the extinction narrative and preventing the material analysis to prevent them is good. Endpoints that destroy the subject's most terrible form of violence, including their impacts on any value of life, into arrogance, debt to suffering nuclear war, or any impacts from capitalism is not all at once. People painfully die from radiation famine. The 30th agency shouldn't let them decide for everyone else. The context explanation to answer this was non-responsive. Just because some disabled people could die does not mean we should not adopt policies in order to do so. New contextualization gives new responses now. The disarm counterplan app going for it. There's not reasons that the app solve their reverse causally. It's just a reason disarm fails in the status quo. These are great NEG Ks that you can read against the TVA extended in the 2NC. Now, the hunger counterplan. The counterplan solves the case because it does the entirety of the plan. Not making a perm was a silly game, and Georgetown will receive a silly prize with an L. Just has to be a tiny risk that food is good. Will to reflection is not bad, and it's not a reason to reject the team. One, they link to Georgetown has identified issues with the status quo and reflects in order to be better to it. And so, will to reflection, anything else would result in all disagreement being tantalized, which is, as per the 2NC, is bad because they have no stable model of debate that can be resulted in. If you think this counterplan is bad, then you think that the negatives model debate is good, which is our top counter argument. Two, cross-ex dooms them. Zach specified that we should have debates about methods and see what the relative cost and benefits of our method is versus some of theirs and theirs. We do the entirety of their method, but give people food. That is obviously better. World hunger is directed and implemented by communities that it serves. Every UN index is irrelevant because we have not said that we should implement the UN sustainability goals or do it through the UN. Instead, it should be directed and implemented by the communities that it serves. There's only a piece of evidence that said how much money we need to do it, and the United States would deficit spend in order to do so. So does not think to any deficit or solvency advocate that they could possibly construe it. It wasn't better than the case because they've made a series of arguments on the case for why affect is important, but not what said why materiality isn't, which means that materiality can combat the affective structures that exist and cause that thing to be there in the first place. Now, the nuclear forces pick. The only saying no leak and moving on is a mistake. Our evidence and pick text was never that nuclear forces was in the plan, but that you should not apply your theory to nuclear forces at all because the Malibu book does not say it once. Bomb link, the one I see is the fantasy of assimilation. The bomb is symbolic where they believe they can be mediated by planning, classification, description, think back to 1AC cross-sex, so 1AC reveals the, quote, imperceptibility of the nuclear complex, making it transparent, and then mapping it. Their evidence says, quote, Malibu compels us to think about the thought of the unthinkable, and then their tags link that to nuclear weapons. The nuclear, quote, invention has brought us a kind of destructive plasticity as an event. This is our whole point. You could have read this app, affirmed the advocacy, but you did not need to talk about nuclear weapons. Why did you do so? They describe the 1AC as a triumph against nuclear weapons, while only further enchaining us into rationalist paradigms of nuclear policies that fail to capture the totality of the bomb. The 1AC argues, quote, the nuclear complex is not inevitable. Debate cannot wish away those nuclear weapons, but then claim the issue with nuclear weapons instead. Quote, we did not reflect hard enough about the unspeakability of these weapons. That is bad. They're focused on academic literature, changing how we know nuclear weapons is the premise of the concealment thesis, which assumes the revealing the truth behind nukes is solvent. In reality, it's a dematerial struggle that plays into think tanks, NGOs, and agencies remain in current international system while claiming that interests have been challenged, typified by Obama's remarks at Hiroshima and common NGO and diplomatic language, cross-sex, demonstrative of that kind of explained above. It makes reflection less likely to be effective. Their insistence that we should exclude analysis desires precisely why the plan fails because it ignores the real can never be captured by language or representation. This allows for constant intrusion of the real, which is unsettling and traumatic because it challenges our very attempt to make sense of the world through language. We must understand the limits of human understanding in order to grapple with those disruptions because they what produces violence and drives us towards that violence. Remember, they have not said perm, they have not said they link, turn, they benefit, and only said no link. So that's the only argument the 1AR gets, and it is only a risk of our offense. But if they get one and they said it and I missed it, reject it, tonic, and 22, it is unseen that mediates the base of atomic bomb, the lack of analogies, should be narrative to enable delivery bomb fundamental images, which to understand historical events, we the narratives analysis I love first going through the post-bomb metaphoric vehicles of atomic bomb fail because the bomb is incomparable. How can the atomic bomb represent not through metaphor? The answer is making the atomic bomb unseen. To define the atomic bomb, one must move to definition. Now the case vote negative on presumption. Reflection cannot resolve a single impact that the 2EC has outlined. Fascism that results from the calculus neurobiological power, nukes bursting, guns blazing, devastation, nuclear radiation. Guess what doesn't solve those things? Thinking about it better. Our answer to the Malibu evidence says that the brain maintains itself through changing environment to becoming addicted to it. This was not a defense of rational science, so it is not a reason to reject the team, but instead that their application of their theories should be tied to material praxis and able to challenge and scale up to the institutions that it seeks to represent. They have not said that they cede the right, but instead we should apply those things into a generative strategy that is able to combat the harms that they have outlined. So they cannot say this is a will to perfection or perceivability that the NEG has outlined, because these are all impacts that the 2AC and 1AC said were important and that we should scale up in order to solve. The next argument is that reflection solves. It's not reverse causally solve anything that this piece of evidence says. It's certainly Malibu has a point. We think about our brain has ramifications is what our piece of evidence said, so they cannot say that that was a voting issue. Again, a reason to reject the argument, not the team. You can scratch the cards and still defend the 1AC, but remember topicality's prior question, and only read this evidence because we are forced to extremist exclusionary impact turns by their model of debate. But they are wrong. Aesthetics fail. No template for ethics. AFF cannot be scaled up because it means different things to different people. It means there's no coherent for what our politics should do. What is the relationship to nuclear weapons? Could you tell me after the debate solely based on the 2AC explanation? Certainly not. Or Alexander and Zupat evidence says that is not based on a rational science of understanding, but instead an understanding of how we are able to create the institutions of aesthetics. Or a piece of evidence says that instead we should see not as the new emergence of new art, as the 1AC has said, but instead seek to create in lack of a visionary gleam, a prefigurative politics that reflects about us to bring back that society. That means you must be able to causally connect those impacts. Lastly, if it is only about debate, then you should vote neg on presumption, because you cannot effectively verify what the 1AC has done, and the method cannot be understood through the context of the harms that they have solved, i.e. if it's good for Zach, that is cannot be negated by the neg.
Great.
There is new document. Where's the standout? Can you pass that to me? Here it is. Okay. Case and facts review. We need that.
Yeah, I'll give you a move.
What's the order of the other things?
We need
Like just
case T, counter plan, nuclear forces.
Okay, that, yeah, case D, kind of like nuclear forces.
Cool. I mean, not just the nuclear forces counter plan, but hunger, then.
Yeah, hunger, counterplan, and then nuclear forces counterplan.
Sounds good.
I just want to make sure, case T, hunger, and nuclear forces.
Yep. Right. Brian, good? Alright, everyone's good now, yeah? Yeah. Dope.
Status quo ontological relationship to accident is firmly unsustainable. Text is behind on ontology claim that every subject is vulnerable. However, they attempt to deny that vulnerability and possibility of accident in favor of immortality is life denying. The dropped under a biopower impact denial of accident locks us into a future of nuclear managerialism based on logical breaking our brains like Delgado, a collective delusion that robs us of any value, potential for experimentation, radical change, the denial of plasticity, and spills into debate instead, but affirmative to embrace accidents and means of confronting the vulnerability in the world. The mutual vulnerability means mutual care rather than mutual destruction. When they say we don't scale up, in context we're very clear. We think all people should do this, which means it's scalable. It's not sure they say AFF can be scaled up. Mutual vulnerability means mutual care, which is above. It's a mode of relation that allows for the possibility of collective apparatus of care. They haven't said that's bad, which means you should scale that up as a model for how we think. You should relate to the affective question. Affect is inevitable. The question we have said neuroscience which falsify it through responses in the amygdala, which means everything is falsifiable. They haven't extended any reason that's why it isn't. But refusing affect destroys VTL for the above reasons, which is also an impact turn to their will to fairness. The disclosure argument, accident and impact turns that they are cowards for extending it, which is impact turned by the grim evidence. They are cowards who attempt to control ontological chaos of debate, which is impossible. Impact turns the reason that's why you should vote on this crucial distinction. Our argument is not unfairness is bad, but the attempt to impose unfairness is bad because unfairness itself is inevitable. The question is how we should relate to a whack-a-mole style diet or embracing the possibility of debate becoming otherwise. Procedural fairness is impossible proven by cross-links. They want to get as close to 50 and 50 as possible, which is the fascist will to control, especially because of other factors, schools, speed size, school size, etc. They say it's presumed false. We're a better form of testing our model. Access and means gives you a lot of ways to negate. A lot of this assumes we have read a counter-interpretation, so you should presume our argument's false. We've also impact turned the will to truth, which is the grim stuff above. They say the ballot pick, if we win, you're a fascist. It's the reason that's why you should not get the ballot. It's the reason that's why Texas DK, you should reject Texas DK. Our model is key, but affirmative because it's good. The ballot does solve our solvency stuff, which is the case made. They say the fairness paradox relies on an idea of extractive reciprocity, impact turned by the careful evidence because Texas DK values fairness. All of you should as well, which is an imposition from their perspective that is violent. It doesn't justify putting affirmative. Our argument is that we don't presume that our arguments will be evaluated fairly. That's why things like neutral judge preference, etc. exist, which means they're conflating fairness and equity. Fairness and equity. RF also paused a timer in the middle, which means that they broke ADA rules, so they're cheaters and they should lose. That's also unsustainable. Impact turned by the 15-15 stuff above. The will to hunger counterplan isn't predictable, which impact turns their argument about how it's super predictable for us, and we didn't make a permutation on it, which also it turns to sort of the stuff they're talking about in cross-text. The counter term means every standard for predictability. Their locus is absolutely arbitrary, which is proven by the fact that every time we've asked them in cross-text, how do we determine which words are more or less predictable? It's always a contextual question. That means you can access our net benefits of KVK to be advanced being good insofar as they have shifted locus predictability from words into resolution. The counter term solves. I'm only going for the definitions of affirm or negate because if we win, then we have met the burden of affirmation. Then we've also met. Then that is the only burden we have to meet as the affirmative. The fuller evidence says true negation is a total probation. Even the possibility of the affirmative, which is our warrant for the permutations argument, is justified by the evidence, which means models of negation like process counterplans go out the window, which takes out their sort of district's counterplan argument. But it means that the affirmative doesn't get perms because the negative is the process of refusing an affirmative core logic and assumptions. That means that our model is structural case debating each other without a permutation, which solves all their contra-neutral offense because you only need to prep one theory power that you want to defend. It lowers the prep burden, causes more clash, and it means that we solve all of their sort of truism arguments. Their model competitively disincentivize those debates. The 2 and R's against our disarm effort, mostly process counterplans, because their model of defend consequence the plan makes aesthetic arguments into a waste of time and no strategic place, which impact turns at TVA. Although I didn't really hear one. Hear one now. The resolved definition will impact turn is reliant on military definition, which is that fascist fascism stuff that I'll do here. The banality of evil just had they are fascist will to control the last one. The presumption of debate is a closed circuit autopoietic that is proven when Arnav said Arnav said that we are disrupting the sort of natural circuit or natural limits of debate, which presumes the idea of naturalness, i.e. things were fair before and then they became unfair now. That is procedure for its own sake, which renders up to the technique of hollowed out information exchange. Haraway says that it's a condition of possibility for the rise of fascism, rules without values, a pure fantasy of control, which creates a paranoid demonization of K-debates as accidents to be eliminated. That denies the possibility of symbiotic connections emerging out of chance and accident, which destroys true learning. That's a Haraway evidence or embrace of destructive plasticity takes these gendered movements as experiments in plastic education, which is a net benefit to our model of debate, i.e. K-debates that they don't access our model, maxes out debates, impact on research and subject formation, embrace the possibility of explosion, educate students to be able to move outside paradigms to absolute rigidity, radical chance produces new connections and enhances learning. That's a bogus and evidence. Even if the TVA can be able to capture political telos, the AFF can't access this because it only makes debate slightly more pliable rather than erasing the identity of score debate and its totality. We have not said that topicality itself as a structure is bad, but your interpretation of what the role of affirmation is bad, which takes out all their arguments about sort of topicality being good. They say a negotiated advance is not negotiation. We critique your process of negotiation as overly bureaucratic, which is the Haraway stuff, and the counter-terp solves because our point is not that we should always be unfair, but rather that we should not endorse a model that elevates fairness to an a priori value, because that is what links to our fascism stuff. They say counter-terp links to the app. Our counter-terp does not link to our own offense. Their fairness paradox offense assumes our argument was that fairness is always bad. Our point is that we should accept the inevitability of fairness rather than have to intervene on it. Finally, the burnout argument is not linked to us because I did this counter-terp stuff about how it doesn't explode research burdens. The AI argument also not needing any of their skills arguments. It applies uniquely to them because it means because it takes out any logo skills. It means the only thing that matters is being a rhetorical critic, which is a net benefit to our model of K-debates. Now, Hunger Counterplan, they said Zach specified debates about method. No, we specified debates about competing theories. We are important because, which means that debates should be able to explain theories, power, not random tactics. It matters because they dropped the fiat K, which is the offense against counterplan and framework. Cruel hope should be rejected because it zeros VTL since we never solve hunger, wishing. But wishing is also weak will to power links to the grim evidence. They say UN indicts are relevant. The cards about the UN, which is how their counterplan would be implemented, which means it applies to all of our offense. I don't have to reinvent the wheel because we read arguments about why UN nations participate in politics control, which links to all offense justified interventions, violence. The nuclear forces pick the pick tax with nuclear forces command F nuclear forces in the 1EC is not there. They should have read a better pick tax. The perm is about also our offense. It rewires everyday practices. They drop the words from Malibu evidence, which indicates that reflection is key to everyday practices. Live differently, refusing coffee, sugar, traveling differently, living differently means it solves climate change, anthropocene, and world hunger. Reflection allows us to be able to change our relationship to control power, which is the unique benefit this doesn't access.
We have 6 so far.
Yeah.
Could you grab me?
the nuclear forces bit.
So we gave to the prize fund, I've never heard so much higher the case and world hunger, the solves the case, and that's massive benefit, feeding billions of people currently left solving, including disabled folks, which means inspecting even under the what he sees has frame and leads to more mutual vulnerability, no shot with cruel optimism reverting issue one. They link to Georgetown has identified a serious problems with the status quo to prescribe a method of care on the case. They said to scale that out to every person in the world that is equally, if not more, utopian and truly optimistic than deficit spending $40 billion. And the 2EC read an add-on that they solve climate change, which is also pro-optimism, two not pro-optimism. That's why we read the car evidence says it was feasible, impossible, and more importantly, drop fiating those things to the go to that allows us to debate their relative benefits of the actions. Reflection alone does not solve, even if it's just about advocacy and not fiating them. Advocating the world hunger is good. Now, the theory of power argument is incoherent. No stable basis for what a theory of power even is. Our theory of power is distinct because it suggests we should end world hunger, which the 2AC identified as a solution that is bad, and they made arguments on topicality that we can't permute theories of power, and this is our alternative theory of power. This is relevant anyways because they haven't made or extended a permutation, so the counterplan is distinct. UN warrants or a blitzstorm, you should hold the line, not a single piece of evidence substantiated, and nothing about food is intrinsic to nuclear interventions. Drop that we advocate the counterplan in text and evidence, and we only have to be responsible for the implementation of that. So even if our card is about what the UN says is sufficient, we clarified, and they had no recontextualization outside of that, and it is directed and implemented by the communities that it serves, which solves. Now, topicality. 2AC conceded new undisclosed plans for bad, no cross applications, and it destroys pre-round fairness and clash and proves they are motivated by competition, not just embracing the best method or vulnerability. If the disclosure would make the debate more engaging, which disproves the argument that only we're imposing fairness onto them. Cowardice is an impact. There are more cowards for denying us a fair debate and just saying the fiat K on the counterplan. It's also independent of T, so you should punish them for not flowing. Now, fairness. The competition mitigates debates benefits, even if we join for different reasons. Drop examples of norms they subscribe to, like drop arguments are true, and the expectation we would join AFs they agree wouldn't exist if debates were primarily referenced on subject formation or how we orient to their method. The sole role of the judge in the balance to evaluate whether or not the net should be burdened with joint or against on-topical acts in this context. So unless the counterplan comes first, there's no distinction between imposing fairness bad and unfairness good, because they deny us the remedy to experience unfairness, which is imposing fairness via ballot. Even if not entirely possible to achieve full fairness, we can relatively move closer to it, which was our argument. The implication is that fairness should graphic substance. It's procedural to correct the strategic asymmetry is not about what's been privilegedly proven in this single debate. Fairness is a priority given their voluntary participation. They believe there's some value in debate that only fairness upholds. The one-year drop or second line warrant that underpins their argument is rendering any assessment about impact terms, including the idea that they don't view debate fair, they don't demand fair evaluation itself requires fair evaluation. If they truly don't believe fairness and only we do, arbitrarily vote neg because they're not triggered by competition or the ballot, so we both get the benefits of what we wanted from the debate. Whether or not you care about debate because it gives you friends or you joy in learning, etc. Debaters all compete for victory within rounds in this context, so community and debate can only be found when we maintain that common motivation. Otherwise, we would go have fun with our friends elsewhere. But fairness is the critical internally for debate's value to actualize those values. Second is clash, a topic that forces the app defendants controversial. Departure from the status quo is best. For every ethical advantage they confer the app, they make being neg that much harder. Unpredictability for the neg guarantees absolute predictability for the app. They only debate extremist generics like deterrence, assurance, and hegemony good, which every neg team rushes to because it's the only way to contest the large swath of unpredictable apps that aren't forced to defend the most controversial parts of the topic, i.e. the U.S. government as the actor, which they still haven't countered, finding nuclear forces as the fiscal weapons, neither of which they meet, so counterinterpretation is unwinnable. This link turns their framework offense. Our interpretation balances unpredictability relatively between the app and neg. While they guarantee absolute predictability for the app, that means the app has never met with unpredictability and vulnerability, so they never have to confront newness and can't embrace vulnerability, while overwhelming the neg's brains and proves they demand absolute predictability, rationality more, which is demonstrated by their process obsession with how there needs to be objective metrics for fairness. Clash outweighs and link turns the app in this context because debate isn't good because it produces good content basis outcomes. It is good because it provides us with, to the extent that it is, provides us tactics for processing information based on clash rigor and the openness to the possibility of being wrong. Now, their counterinterpretation is totally nonsensical. The H1 agent under their interpretation, a restriction of nuclear forces cannot just be deployed by them, but any permutation combination of 300 million other U.S. residents in countries with diverse social locations, thousands of grassroots organizations, etc. And if they just say that they're a theory of power, then a theory of power it has no definition that they have defined in this context, and it can be a truism like my theory of power is that nuclear weapons cause violence, and there's no definition of that. The now T is a question of monos of debate, one presumption, and it's not true that you can only defend one counter theory of power because because that doesn't necessarily disagree with other theories of power that the AF might forward, and if it's a truism, there's nothing to say anyways. Now, T is also a question of Mono's debate. Ballot does not solve their offense and thus cannot be an RVI. They made arguments that they don't tie violence and debate to the ballot, so, and they made arguments about presumption, about how they have to scale outside of it, so otherwise neg on presumption, they can't say vote after reject the 1 and C, or neg because the 1 and C and the neg is responsive to the 1 and C. We only had a violent performance because they inserted an untopical advocacy. Their fuller stuff, but this is largely done above topicality as restriction on the act content, not its form. It's a negotiation of which interpretation is best, not an imposition of a hegemonic one. Switch side also solves the case apps, read disarm or NFU, or any objection they have about nuclear managerialism as a plasticity critique under the state-focused lens. And there's no negative impact to that because each team over the course of the year would prepare better and better responses, which is better to contest those methods. Now, the result being about military is wrong. We also read a words and phrases card that isn't about it, and they dropped that under their interpretation, their Collins evidence also goes negative, which is the more precise one. Now, the fuller thing, topicality is not fear of unpredictability. That was largely done above. They also link because they exclude acts that don't deal with the topic at all, demonstrating they are not a fully open system. The natural limits in self-regulation was their defense argument in a narrow way about how there's some natural limit or self-regulation within debate. But the far more accurate analogy is that the topicality is the only natural limit. AI thumbs was underexplained in the treaty, justifying the HQAR. One, it's unsubstantiated. AI doesn't kill every benefit of debate, and if it does, it destroys the benefits they prescribe, but not winning. The timer example is this silly, but the magnitude of their violation is much worse. Topicality is about models anyways, and concede no link, no cross-apps from the nuclear forces bit. And any RBI, the substance thing is a kill. T is not an RBI under any circumstance.
Cool, great.
Case power plan framework.
do it? I'll need this. Can you grab this? Yeah. You can also use that. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That's fine. Alright. Or we're just gonna use that. Yeah. Watch. Cool. Pretty good.
Evaluating case of prerequisite allowing them to access any of their framework arts or argument like counterplan. The one is the critical model of debate is premise off the instrumentality, rational management, value and value neutral info exchange. Humanism built off the worshipping of our rational capacity in the face of accident only culminates into violent. Politics control and extreme ableism. One is control, you control societies are oppressive. Actualization of politics where everything must be considered rational there. Relationship to unpredictability and accident is a total ratio of chance, which is shown by their fairness argument turning into 50-50 chance in a ballot. 2 and T cross-sex. They must manage every contingency in order to close off possibility of accident, when only results in violence. When accident or chance does find a way in, the reaction becomes flash out, control society goes down. Guns blazing and news bursting. You should also reject this psychic relationship of accident because it's not only determines their model's relationship to Duke, but also shows how it views the maintenance debated to them either total control or total violence, which frames all the UN stuff, the UN stuff on the counterplane because it's a question of their relationship to control. Affirming the UN model of solving hunger is bad, but we have a thesis as to how the brain operates. You should refer back to when they say we don't have warrants, we have a VTL impact you can hang your hat on. You should view your role as maximizing affective engagement because anything else ensures avoidance of activity. We call ontological refugees that are completely apathetic to the world. That was valid, which comes from the 1AC. Citing the 1A, are they completely dropped it? As outweighs fairness because it affects you as a judge, not just competitors. Their model of debating competition requires aesthetic engagement to be evacuated. It is unstrategic and a waste of speech time in a world where the 1AC is required. To defend a planned aesthetic offense always outweighed by consequences. We tried reading planned VTL arguments with Brilio and debates where all positive counterpoint turns. That means that even if they win, then we can hypothetically say aesthetics under model. That doesn't mean that strategic place that matters because our aesthetic counter is good and it opens up vulnerability. The only ballot that accesses any benefit for us as humans is the affirmation of aligning ourselves with the art of dying, but allowing our brains to come to terms with the possibility of its own death, its own accident. I'll talk more about solvency stuff on the counterplan now. First on the counterplan, they dropped we self hunger on the new forces stuff. That's a 2EC Malibu card about how reflection on our own existential policy liberates us from fascist, ecologically destructive addictions and changes our applied practices and refuse to. It solves things like climate change. They completely conceded this in the 1 area, which means I don't have to do much work here, but their own impact evidence says the Anthropocene causes global hunger, which means we've already solved it, or at least access some degree of solvency, which means that any terminal deficit is outweighed by the UN term, which they have no ink on, but I did the impact calc for that above on the K. They're also not really responding to the fiat K in a productive way. The feasible possible distinction doesn't mean that it will happen or that the state will do it. Our argument is that affect engagements are a means of motivating people to engage in the app, but they have no reason that the state would do anything like give up all of this money, which means that the fiat K still applies. They are a motive, cruel hope, which impact turns their model because it means zero VTL because we're never actually able to actualize the kinds of thing you're talking about now. Framework, they say that accessing fair stuff on the ballot pick, I'll group that stuff first. It doesn't require you to be fair. You evaluate arguments the way that you want to, hence MPJs, which means that they're kind of that relies on you evaluating arguments fairly too is kind of this infinitely tautological thing about fairness, which proves that it's also not valuable. Group their evaluating fairness paradox offense and relevant to our Texas state. The claim that our offense at Texas mission debate is as a content neutral game where they go for case and reframeworks means they have fascist and full results. We know that to be true based on how they've chosen to construct and deploy arguments in this round. It flips ballot K on them, ballot for Texas. It's really quelling anxieties about the eruption of gas accidents. It's seamless content neutral game, so lifeless ossification debate, but an app ballot promotes self-reflection on existential relationship to our own death, reality of vulnerability and aging and the unpredictable nature of the world. It forces us to reflect on our own bodies and relationships and power in each other. That's what a theory means. It means you vote app even if you don't know what ballot does. The leap of faith and willingness to be vulnerable in the face of accident rather than stave it off is our solvency. 1AC for talking, extended 2AC hairway evidence, rationalist control models, one where debaters are emptied of and surrendered to technical activity. The debate comes a hollowed out space of information exchange. What Arendt says, read the rise of fascism in Germany. Their model of debate forces you into position of the enforcer with ballot function matters, duty matters, the world does not matter. The RFD they're asking you to give, which you should not face, reject. Their model of debate is in fact anti-educational because it causes a surrender of critical thought and actively creates fascism, which is especially true because they are completely content neutral. Our whole critique is of this kind of will to purely procedural offense. Now, the counter-term access is all their offensive model debate premise often taking mental and theoretical stance on the resolution question means no permutations. The nature of the relationship between affirmation and engagement under this model is always mutually exclusive. This means that debates become different theories in their approaches to res and ground shifts to which theory has the best explanatory power for thinking about our bodies in relation to the world and how the world operates. That's especially important because it means under our model the counterplan loses because it doesn't actually negate our theory. It just sort of it says we should do this extra thing. Now, explanatory power comes first. The only external impact of the round, the first of fiat K. They already dropped it frames the VTL stuff because it's the only impact that affects us as people. And they didn't say the debate doesn't shape subjectivity in the 2 and R, which means that you can hang your hat on our impacts outweigh. The 2 is existential horizon based debate, but it should be seen as a site where we can grapple with existential horizon resolutions like the nuclear, what it means to be a subject implicated in the nuclear, because anything else defaults to a rational subversive logic was doomed to control and failure. That's our case impact. They dropped terminal defense or a model of banality of the impact and evil disset dropped by 2 2 and R, and a reason to is completely dropped by a 2 and R, and a reason for our vision to debate is sim-poetic, not autopoietic. QAC heroin, what is Evo Jensen are very explicit that we should not view debate as a closed autopoietic system. It is then self-evolving porous one. The only thing they said is that T is the natural limit, but there are other things that fill in, things like judge preference, community norms, and limit bases, all self-regulate. What have people find or reach or strategic with zeros a chance their offense against the counter term, any reason they have for not performing. This sim-poetic model debate is inherently tied to a fascist impulse or rational control of everything. That's why Z Grove and Tracy Haraway, we have a controlling thesis argument that you should resist this psychic humanist reliance on the modes of control. In order to vote NEG, you have to explain how a small, unquantifiable, vague internal impact of fairness that's mitigated by counter term and defense could possibly outweigh external offense. The only way you could do that is by saying debate doesn't seem subjectivity, but they didn't do that. They didn't do that work for you. Now the topicality is the only natural limit argument done above. The resolve stuff irrelevant because we define affirmation and negation in the context of the resolution, which prefigures all of the other words in the resolution insofar as it defines what the burdens of the AFF and the NEG are. Now the disclosure stuff, when I are specifically cross-applied Grimm as an impact term to this, a reason to vote on this is because undisclosed acts are bad and are unfair, but Grimm is a reason why unpredictability and unfairness are structurally inevitable. They drop, and they are an unhealthy way of relating to fairness. So whackable style is proved by the fact that Texas response to anything new is crying for fairness. We aren't towers. We responded to all your arguments and didn't make permutations, but the counterplan was an unpredictable engagement with the AFF, which is a necessary part of our model, which means that we don't link back to this offense. We are not citing semis on this. We have impact on the reason why you would pair the timer arguments prove that the line between fairness and unfairness is absolutely arbitrary. Now vote after RRF did not explain why our model is uniquely unfair. They just had a bunch of reasons why fairness matters, but you should not go back to the 2 and C warrants for why our model is unfair. We met definition of affirm, negate, and our model is more fair because it allows for good K-to-K debates. If our judges debate, I would think that maybe Texas model is more fair and check out on it, but our offense outweighs because they conceded debate state subjectivity.
Good debate.
We have something for you.
Not that kind of hungry, but like, I can use the same.